What are we
Today,
talking about today?
we're going to talk about the differences between working in-house versus an agency. Or I would even compare that to like being a contractor or just some type of outside marketing ops help.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's the reason we're thinking about this is we've been doing CS2 now for almost 5 years, and we've learned a lot. We've been in-house, we've been doing CS2 now, so it's a good time to reflect back and see what we thought about it. And we haven't prepared anything,
No.
so this just kind of a random chat about the pros and cons.
Yeah, so it's almost 5 years since we both worked in-house. But it's still fresh. I think we still can think back
Still
on
have
our time.
nightmares.
Still have a twitch note. I think to kick it off, and it could be some of the driving factors for why we started CS2. But one of the best things I think for me for doing marketing ops is problem solving. And so when you're working in house, you're really solving the problems for one company, which can be hard, especially when you're working internally. You have a lot of things pulling you in different directions. And then people kind of expect you to handle all of that. So you can be problem solving, but you're also doing all these other things, and you're balancing, politics and people and personalities and, all the other stuff, campaign execution, fire drills, and so forth. And so really your job maybe becomes 20% doing that.
And it can get minimized for sure.
It can get minimized, yeah. It doesn't always, but kind of. And so one of the things that really appealed to me for starting an agency is just also problem solving, but for multiple clients. And then that broadens the scope of the type of problems I'm helping solve, or the type of, value I can provide to different companies. And that keeps the role pretty exciting. Some people, it can be overwhelming. Because you do have to remember a lot. You have to change gears a lot. You have to be able to, memorize the ins and outs of multiple organizations rather than just one, which having one for someone can be hard. So, but if you're able to balance all of that and then that excites you, I think an agency is great. If you like going deep into like one one instance, one part, and really owning that, working in-house is great because you are that sole gatekeeper for that company. All you have to do is figure out, one set of people, process, and data set, and really that's your job.
Yeah, and the other side of that, is in-house, because you can go really deep. You are the owner of all of the different aspects. You get that very big holistic view, and when it works well, it works well. Like, there's no politics, the team's really well, highly functioning, you can be strategic, and you really can take the whole thing forward. Whereas when you work outside, a lot of the time you're brought in for specific projects, and you can work really good and you can really improve that. Some clients you take on more and more and more, especially with our model where we work very long term with our clients and we grow with them.
Yeah.
Other agencies where they just do different individual projects and then move on, they very much just kind of work on one thing and they're gone, and that might just be 10% of everything that's going on in operation. So if you're the kind of person that likes to just do that problem solving, go out, then an agency that just works on projects is good. If you like to have a bit of both, where you can own a lot but you also work on individual projects, then an agency that works on a retainer model is good. But if you're a person that likes to just go really deep just on one thing, then maybe in-house is good for you. And I think for me, I really like being able to jump in and out of lots of different instances, and I feel like you have this accelerated learning curve because if you work with one company for a couple of years, you've if you've worked in ops a while, you should kind of understand how everything operates, within that company pretty quickly. And then operationally, and then the only things you're really learning is how to improve what you've got specifically for that company.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when we've got 18 clients now, and like current clients, active clients, and when you're jumping in and out of that many instances, you're seeing lots of different ways that different people are trying to solve different problems, and you're helping different companies solve different problems, and there's so many nuances in what we do. So then you really do get to see that holistic picture. And then what's brilliant about that is that you can take that and you can really have an educated opinion on what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because when you've seen it for, you've worked for 3 companies in your career, you've seen what's worked and not worked for a few companies, and that's still great. But when you've seen it, for 18, 20, plus 30 companies over the space of a few years, you've just got more data points to draw from, and you can really understand, you've really got a solid opinion on what works. And that's why, consultants bring a lot of value, because you've got your fingers in so many pies and you've got so much experience across different situations.
Totally. And I think another thing, I'm just moving on to the next one, but I think another thing when I think about an argument for working in-house is kind of more of like the relationship. So a lot of people, think, if I, work in-house, I'm able to build relationships with my coworkers. I'm able to...
That's a big one.
Have that rapport with them, where when you're kind of a third party, you really just brought in to do the work. A lot of the times you're probably working remotely for an agency, or even if you're working on your own as a contractor, you're working remotely, especially in this landscape of what we do. And that can be a bit lonely.
But I think it depends on what kind of person you are. Exactly.
So, but I make the case to say, actually, I think that it's been great for developing relationships, especially with my clients, working long term with them. If you have a model where you are able to work long term with different clients, you're able to meet a lot of great people, what they're doing, understand the ins and outs of how they're thinking about marketing. But also, if you're jumping on calls with them, you can have great rapport just, on video chat and get to know them. And there are, relationships that some of my clients that I value so much from like a mentorship point of view, either me mentoring them or, having a mentor to look up to that I'm helping actually get their job done at the same time, or provide value for the organization. And so that's been great. It's not the same as like I'm coming in every day and I'm getting my whole team into a conference room and, we're, brainstorming, whiteboarding. I can do that with my team internally too, so I get a little bit of that. But when you're working in-house, you're probably doing that a lot more. But,
and there's the company mission that when you're spread across multiple clients, you can't be as invested in each of the clients' mission as a person in-house.
Totally.
And that's why I think we always say, don't only have an agency or only have in-house. If you're someone who works in-house and you're thinking about hiring for your Mops team, I think it's good to have someone in-house who's really invested in the company's mission and knows everyone and goes to all the company events and all of that. But then it's good to have an agency too who can provide a level of expertise to support that person, support them with an extra pair of hands, be flexible contract where they can help you a lot one month and not so much the next month depending on your needs. Then that's the best way of doing it. But from our point of view, I think when you work externally, you do sometimes miss being part of just that one, that one mission. Obviously, us as CS2, we've created our own company and we've got our own goals and everything like that. But especially like in the early days when it was just us two doing CS2, it was a change moving from I'm working for this company. This is what the company's kind of get moving towards, and everyone's aligned to that. There's hundreds of people aligned to that, and it was a kind of a different perspective. But then, I think you can still really enjoy what your clients are doing and create those relationships too. So that, again, it's not like a big issue but it's just a point, to bring up. Like,
yeah, it's just what
people
think about their jobs and culture. Like, what are you looking for,
right.
really?
And then I think one thing that's just kind of just a day-to-day thing. I mean, when you're a consultant in companies like ours, a lot of the time you're working from home, and that's just such a for different people it doesn't work, but I think for a lot of people it does, especially these days with all of the tools that we've got available to keep in touch with people. But I just love it because of those hours you get back, not commuting, more time spent with family and our new daughter, being able to walk the dog, and that enables me to be better at my job, I think, because I just have that balance inherently in my life and I don't lose those extra hours commuting. So you can just get a lot more done in your day, and then you're not just exhausted by the time you get to work because you had a crappy commute or anything. And I don't think that when you weigh all the pros and cons from working from home, I think there's so many more positives than negatives. Of course, there's negatives in terms of you're not seeing as many people, you're not interacting with as many people, but so if you have to make sure you are going out and seeing people if you work from home. But the positives of being able to have that balance, just easier, being able to have less distractions.
You have to be a bit proactive as well.
Right,
so
you have to be, yeah.
You do need to be someone who can really manage your day, really be like heads down on your work without this like kind of communal pressure, peer pressure to like work, Some people can get easily distracted, especially if they're in a living space. And, that means you can maybe go work at a WeWork, but even then that may not even be enough. And they could easily get distracted. So that becomes, again, another difference between personality types.
What do you think the hardest thing is about working for a consulting agency?
The hardest thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think the seasonality and also the unexpected periods of craziness. I think when you work for a company, you have a general idea of like the level of work that will come your way. But when you're managing clients, things can ebb and flow. And, someone might come to you with a massive project, out of the blue. And you need to like be able to plan for that. And sometimes that means not taking on as many clients as you think you can handle at that one time. You do need to, add buffer.
Do you think though that, that can happen in-house too, right?
It can happen in-house.
I think it's a little bit why it's different, I think, to jump onto your point, is that when you're in-house, you have different stakeholders that can all send you something, right? But then when you're an agency and you're working across a dozen clients, you have all of those people that can send your point of contact something, scale that by multiple different clients, all with the different politics involved that you have to know, all of the different tech stack, tools, processes, goals, aggressiveness to get projects done, and you have basically that across, it's just multiplied. So when 6-7 of your clients all go in January, we've got all these big projects we want to do now. It's just scaled up, right? Yeah. And that's where, if you're a consultant, contractor, work for an agency, one of the hardest and biggest problems is really that, like managing demand, having like making sure you obviously got enough demand to meet your goals, which I think in marketing operations these days, there's a lot of demand out there, but the hardest part is not taking on too many clients and then being able to be agile and handle those big upticks, because there's like always a good level of demand and then there's a big burst certain times of the year, and it does seem a lot of times clients all like to go kind of crazy at the same time, crazy with work. So
I think there's there's a big part of customer satisfaction is just the kind of what you have said before, is like you want the client to think that you're only working for them, really, as far as like speed to get things done, you know,
Yeah,
knowing the
that's
ins
a
and
good North
outs.
Star, right?
Like if they don't feel like you're just this agency that's managing a huge, you know, group of clients, and you're just basically picking like a ticket, like you're at a deli counter and just waiting for your turn, like that
Right.
can easily be replaced, and they're gonna probably find a new help, because that's not really getting them to scale.
Right. Especially for like little like agencies like ours, like the smaller side consulting agencies. I think that's a really good metric, or even, or maybe it's guessing not a metric, but kind of barometer of success.
Yeah.
You know, when your clients ask you how many other clients you have, you want them to be surprised of how many you have.
Yeah.
Because you want them to feel like that they're getting such good attention that, you know, they think you're their only client. So they're your only client. So yeah, I think that's something that every agency similar to ours should strive for. Every agency in general should strive for that, I guess, too.
Yeah. And I think moving on to another point.
This video was turning a bit longer than we said it was going to be, but it was good. Let's keep it going.
I think that this is a final good point to make, but you're probably going to add on to it. But I think for an agency or a consultant, it's trying to figure out how you can build growth for yourself within that career, or within that, because there's a natural progression in-house. You can get promotions, you can get title changes, and I'm not always saying that that's the best barometer for career growth, and I think that's
it's set out for you.
It's set out for you, and it's something that is like tangible that you can work toward. So a different way to think about it is, how can you just evolve the type of work that you're doing and how much value that you're providing? You know, if we look at the evolution of CS2, it really started out as, you know, kind of helping out our clients, a broad range of things, a lot of it campaign execution, a lot of it kind of, you know, introductory, you know, kind of projects around like lead scoring, setup nurtures, all that. But a goal for us is really like, okay, but we're growing as marketing ops people. We're growing from a strategic standpoint as well. How do we then take on work that meets our growth curve and really provide value that matches our skill set?
So don't you think that that's good advice for someone in-house too, though, as well? Like,
oh, yeah.
Not to be... I mean, I think it is very good advice for someone externally, but I think it could be applied internally too.
Yeah, totally. And I think you need to take a step further and kind of like be your own champion and be your own boss, where like some people internally can have someone that can help push them to get there. And if you work for an agency, there might be, you know, different levels that'll help you get there. But when you're running an agency, or if you're an individual like contractor, you got to be your own champion.
Right.
You have to be like your own like person setting those goals for you, because no one else is going to do that. So that's the big difference. Yeah.
And then I think one thing to add on to that is just trying to have more fun and creativity in it. Because a lot of clients have similar problems. You find that once you fixed the problem, or you found a solution for a specific thing for one client, you're probably going to end up doing relatively similar thing for another client, and then again and again. Where in-house, once you've implemented a tool or whatever it is that you're doing,
you move on to the next thing.
You move on to the next thing, and you do get a little bit more variety, I guess, because it's only it's going to take a long time for you to come back and do that again unless you move jobs. Whereas when you're doing it externally as an agency, you're going to be doing it a lot more, which is why you have that accelerated learning, right? So the more you do it, the more reps you get, the better you're going to get at it. But which is great. But then trying to add more things in. So for example, with us, very much so over the first few years of CS2, we were just, okay, let's just do as much work as we can for clients. All of our goals are around billable work and how many clients we could get. And then we realized that, okay, this is great, but there's only so many billable hours I really need to hit the goals. And we want to start adding in more different aspects to what CS2 does that doesn't really have a financial reward to it immediately. It's more just kind of a creative outlet. So that's a lot of our content. Over the last year or so, we've been focusing a lot on that, and it's just been it's been fun, right? It just adds a whole new dynamic. We were just talking about it with the team earlier today, like using that other part of your brain, the other side of your brain, the very technical operational side, to just have fun with content, right? Everyone can find their voice and come up with different content ideas, but then you actually find that with that you become better at the other stuff too, because you're really formulating your thoughts. You have to really sit down and think about, okay, I've thought about this is the way to do this one thing. Okay, is that right? I have to just think about how other people might interpret this. How can I articulate this the best way? And you end up being a better consultant from it.
Totally.
So I'd invite all consultants to don't write a blog or do content because you're expecting a massive ROI on it day one.
Yeah.
Do it because you're interested in the topics, you want to explore them more, and it's an outlet for you. It's also a way to help you, educate your current clients, and if you end up getting new clients out of it, then great. But there's loads of benefits before you get to attracting new clients through making sure that you have that creative side and you do develop your own point of view and content. Yeah.
And like for internal people, you can take a little bit of that, where I always say, market your own marketing. So do that, if you're, whatever you're doing in marketing ops, like really market that to the broader marketing team and to sales. And so you can really build your personal brand within your organization. That's going to help you in your path there, and then maybe beyond, because people change roles. But for a consultant, you're really working on your personal brand too. And that can be everyone across your whole agency, and that can add an element of, people getting bought into, who you are and what you do. You're less of this agency with just a name, and you're more, you're Charlie, and you're human to them, and you're this person that's helping them, and that's a relationship that will last. So if your goal is to have clients that are long lasting, that could be a great tool for you.
So what's better, in-house or agency? I mean,
I'll let people guess.
Yeah, I mean, for us, everything's dependent on who you are. But for us, I think we obviously been doing it 5 years now. So I think for us, the agency life is for us. But hopefully, we shed some light on the differences. I'm sure we can come up with 100 more.
Totally.
But this video podcast is getting up there now in time, so we'll probably call it a day, right?
Yeah.
All right.
See ya.
See you next time forward.